Amazon wants to have multiple sellers of each product because it often helps to keep prices competitive, hence making the products and the overall marketplace all the more appealing to buyers. Asking Amazon to help police your brand will fall on deaf ears, even if you have protective assets like a patent or trademark.
This is the E-Commerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello and welcome to the E-Commerce Braintrust podcast. I'm your host, Kiri Masters, and I'm joined by your co-host, Julie Spear.
Hi, Kiri.
So today on the show, we're going to be talking about how to protect your brand on Amazon. And this is actually a recap of a popular article that we have on the Bobsled marketing blog, which has the same title. And I'm going to actually read that blog post out in its entirety because I think it's really good content and it's really relevant. But we picked it up as one of the most popular articles that we've published in 2017. And for good reason. I think there's been a lot of stories in the media about brands, big brands like Birkenstock and Nike working with Amazon, or in Birkenstock's case, just doing everything that they can to not be connected with Amazon because of the issue of unauthorized sellers being able to sell on Amazon's marketplace, and issues with counterfeiting and brands not being accurately displayed and incorrect product information, bad customer experience. There's a whole litany of issues that come with unauthorized, in some cases, counterfeit sellers of products on Amazon. So this has become a big talking point in 2017. That's part of the reason why I think it was a popular article. But this is something that we work with brands on a very, very regular basis at Bobsled Marketing, is around this unauthorized sellers issue and how brands can gain control, protect their brand, ensure the integrity of their brand and products on Amazon. Before we get into reading that article out in full, why do you think this article was so popular this year?
I think you laid it out that it really, protecting your brand on Amazon is a significant challenge, whether it's against unauthorized sellers or counterfeiters. And it can have a lot of impact on the success of your sales as well, because if there are multiple sellers on your page, it's impacting your ownership of the buy box and your ability to advertise. There's a whole trickle-down effect. And so I think it's a reality that a lot of sellers encounter on Amazon, and it's a murky area to wade into to figure out how to manage it. So I think often it's a great research topic. So I think that this was something that people trying to troubleshoot their own experiences on Amazon, dealing with unauthorized sellers and dealing with counterfeit sellers, were looking for ways to troubleshoot it. And so I think that's why this post was particularly popular.
Good old SEO.
Exactly. Our own SEO on this was strong.
Yeah, definitely. I think something timely that's happened in the last week is that the European Union, one of the EU courts, just ruled in favor of a luxury beauty brand, Coty, to ensure that they would have the benefit of not allowing distributors to sell their products on Amazon. So just to rephrase that in a way that probably makes more sense, Amazon has never been held legally responsible for managing third-party sellers for brands. It's an open marketplace. Basically, the stance is if you have obtained products legally and they are genuine products, then you're allowed to sell those on Amazon. You don't need the permission of the brand to do that. You don't need to prove to Amazon that the brand is allowing you to sell those products. And that's been the case in all of their marketplaces. But some brands, particularly luxury brands, take issue with this because they want to protect their brand. They've got a very particular way that they want their brand to be displayed. They've got a very particular way that they want customers to be interacted with. So in some cases, luxury brands don't want any of their products to be on Amazon. But that's been almost impossible to enforce. And it's certainly never been a legal precedent for this before. But just this week, that all changed in the European courts. So I believe that the specific ruling was around luxury brands, and that's all it extends to, and it's only in the EU. But I think it's an interesting point to think about whether there could be similar cases in the US or amongst other product categories where we find that Amazon actually has a legal responsibility to protect specific brands or specific categories in some of their marketplaces.
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting development. And I'm going to pay attention to how that potentially unfolds here in the US as well.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest case in the US was with Nike a few months ago, sort of in the middle of 2017, where they had avoided working directly with Amazon for a very long time because of this issue of unauthorized sellers and counterfeits as well. And so they struck a deal with Amazon that said, we'll come back to you. We'll be involved with selling on your platform. We'll have a direct relationship with you if you do this work of cleaning up third-party sellers and you don't allow them to sell on the marketplace. And that was a huge change in Amazon's approach. And it was obviously a one-time exception to get a massive, massive brand on board with them, because they'd always said, or the position was always, if a product's been obtained legally and it's genuine, then you can sell it. So that changed in the US with Nike. It's changed in the EU with the luxury beauty segment. Amazon is giving more options and mechanisms for brands to control their presence on Amazon through things like the brand registry. That's something that we talk about in the article. So I see Amazon just at a very macro level being more sympathetic to the needs of brands to protect themselves and to try and be a platform that brands want to be selling on, rather than a platform where they have to be there and they have to deal with the consequences. Because I think that that's the way that a lot of brands view Amazon, is just this necessary evil.
Yeah, I think this is a good point to move into the article as it was posted about a year ago now, maybe a little over. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about how things have changed since the time that we posted that article.
How to protect your brand on Amazon from unauthorized sellers. As a team of Amazon sales and strategy consultants, we often talk with a lot of brand owners who are not yet actively selling on Amazon. Following our initial marketplace analysis, it might come as a surprise for these owners when we find out that their products are actually being sold on Amazon by other sellers. It then begs the question, how are other people allowed to sell my product on Amazon without my permission? The fact is that Amazon is a marketplace where anyone can sell goods that they legally acquired. Amazon's strategy is to offer the largest assortment of products with the most convenient buying experience at competitive prices. Notice I didn't say the cheapest price. Amazon has actively moved away from being cheap to convenient. The buy box algorithm. Having many sellers hawking the same product in the same marketplace has the typical result of driving prices down. This pro-buyer policy is accomplished through the buy box algorithm, which is the way Amazon's system chooses which seller gets the sale in cases where multiple sellers are offering the same product. Buy box versus brand policy. As much as the price-reducing mechanism of having multiple sellers per product listing is helpful to Amazon and to customers, many brands are less fond of the concept. And there are various reasons, from reduced prices to brand perception and even affecting B2B relationships. While many sellers accept the rules of the game and strive to win the buy box algorithm, for others, the concept of the buy box creates a major sticking point. First, it generally drives down the price of their products. Having multiple sellers of a product often results in them competing on price. Repricing software is often used by these sellers to automate the process of reducing prices of items in order to win the buy box and get the sale. Secondly, reduced prices may affect customer perception of the brand. If your brand has a strategic pricing model, it can be frustrating to have this undermined in such a significant market. Thirdly, reduced prices affect relationships with other vendors. Brands who sell to retail stores or distributors might find these relationships are affected when they see a lower price on Amazon. You might have a MAP, a minimum advertised price policy in place with your other vendors, which may be flagrantly ignored on Amazon by an anonymous seller. And finally, product pages can be off-brand. Since anyone can create a new listing for your product if they have products in stock, in new condition, and an Amazon seller account, but they may not have the correct product information or might be using a poor quality product photo. Since there is little incentive to follow brand guidelines for the listing, the brand experience may take a toll. This is frustrating for brands who have worked hard to develop consistency across their sales channels, only to have it undermined by rogue sellers. In the blog post, I've included a chart that shows the volume of products listed by third-party sellers, for example, sellers using FBA or Fulfilled by Amazon to sell directly on the platform. And the chart shows that the volume of products sold by third-party sellers are far greater than the volume of products listed directly by Amazon, where the brand is selling inventory direct to Amazon on a wholesale basis, which is known as the vendor program. And so it varies by category, but as at the time of this chart being compiled in Q3 of 2015, overall, the third party as seller was winning the buy box 83% of the time, and Amazon as the seller 17% of the time. Back to the article. The policing of your brand on Amazon comes down squarely on the shoulders of the brand. Some brands may even decide that Amazon isn't for them after all, just taking this into account. This was the case of Birkenstock, a company with a history of about 240 years that has decided earlier this month, well, this is back in 2016, that it was time to move away from Amazon. Their decision is aimed to achieve better control of the brand, both in terms of authenticity and price, and does come at a time when their products appear to be experiencing a revival. But how about brands that are doing so well on Amazon that they don't want to leave it? They want to start or continue selling in this marketplace, although they might have to overcome the challenge of unauthorized sellers. So, how can you protect your brand on Amazon? Here are 7 ways to protect your brand on Amazon. Number 1 is to understand that Amazon will not help you take down unauthorized sellers. Amazon wants to have multiple sellers of each product because it often helps to keep prices competitive, hence making the products and the overall marketplace all the more appealing to buyers. Asking Amazon to help police your brand will fall on deaf ears, even if you have protective assets like a patent or trademark. Amazon does not view unauthorized sellers, i.e. anyone but you and your authorized distributors, as policy violators. Amazon is a catalog business, which is actually designed for more than one seller to be on an individual listing at any given time. Only counterfeit items are against Amazon's policy. Number 2, apply for the Amazon Brand Registry. Brand Registry is an Amazon program fairly easy to enroll in if you're the manufacturer or an OEM with a branded product. Your enrollment ensures that other sellers cannot easily make changes to your product detail pages. It's an important way of ensuring that your product pages are represented correctly, but it doesn't prevent other sellers from listing your product. It also certifies you as the brand owner, which gives you several important tools, such as not having to use UPCs or barcodes to list your products, and your content contribution outweighs any other sellers. This means that the copy, keywords, and other product listing attributes you submit will override any content that other sellers try to submit. And just as a side note, in 2017, Amazon upgraded their brand registry to have a new process which requires sellers to have a trademark. And so the enrollment process is a little bit different, and sellers enrolled in that program have a whole swag of other options around branding and marketing that are not available to sellers not in that program. So we'll link up to that blog post in the show notes as well. Number 3, keep your brand identity front and center. Maintain a public website for your brand, which you can prove ownership. This is actually a requirement for applying for the Amazon Brand Registry anyway. You should have your brand name printed on the packaging and the actual product. This is another requirement of the brand registry process, but it will also help in identifying counterfeit items. See below. Number 4, put in place exclusivity and MAP policies for your distributor contacts. Execute ironclad agreement with distributors, resellers, or retailers who may sell your product. These agreements should explicitly prohibit them from selling your brand on Amazon themselves and to adhere to your MAP policy if preferred. If you find that wholesale distributors are ignoring the exclusivity or MAP clause, then you can choose to take further action, which could include raising their wholesale price so that it's financially untenable for them to continue, thereby undercutting you on Amazon. Further protection can also be found in including serialization on products. This allows you to find out which distributor might be doing this, so you can trace back to the problem distributor. Enforcing an exclusivity contract is just as important as setting it up. You'll want to be tracking who is selling your products on a regular basis and nip any untoward behavior in the bud. Number 5, handle unauthorized Amazon sellers reactively. One way we do this for Bobsled Marketing's clients is to proactively monitor product pages and accounts to identify when products have unauthorized Amazon sellers. When we identify such products, we have a 2-step process to handle the issue. Part 1 is to send a cease and desist style message through the Amazon system directly to the other seller. This eliminates a good percentage of unauthorized sellers. And secondly, if we believe that it is a counterfeit item, we place a test buy to validate this. After verifying that the product is not authentic, we file a complaint with Amazon and try to have the seller's offer taken down. You'll not get any compensation from Amazon if you have to go through this process. Number 6, don't use stickerless commingled inventory if you're using the Amazon FBA program. When you sign up for Fulfilled by Amazon or FBA, there is an option available that you can select to not have to apply Amazon barcode labels or stickers to your inventory when it's shipped in. However convenient it might seem, refrain from using this option because it means that your product and your inventory can be mixed in with potentially counterfeit items and you don't really have any way of tracking who sent what inventory in. And then finally, number 7, consider becoming an Amazon vendor. We've written plenty of content about Seller Central versus Vendor Central, and basically the difference between selling on Amazon directly to their customers or selling to Amazon on a wholesale basis. The other benefit of being a vendor on Amazon is that you will become the de facto brand owner on Amazon. It will be more difficult for other sellers to make changes to your product detail page, such as changing the product description and product images, adding new variations, and other unwelcome changes. And just as a side note, after reviewing this article, that this is just one of many considerations to take into account when choosing to sell as a marketplace seller or 3P or as a vendor or 1P. So during our experience as Amazon consultants, we find the following frequently asked questions to be important considerations for sellers looking to protect their brand against unauthorized sellers. So one question is, as a foreign brand, should I set up a US entity to help protect my brand? And personally, I advise against setting up a US entity simply for this reason, as it won't necessarily be effective. Some of these unauthorized sellers won't be US companies either, so it won't necessarily be easy to enforce legal action. By setting up a US entity, you also need to start dealing with all the compliance involved with that, or the legal and tax affairs required of US companies. So in and of itself, it's not an effective way to deal with this issue. Will a trademark or patent help? Trademarking is a good idea, and it will be prudent to give you more grounds for legal action in a worst case scenario. But you should note that it's difficult to actually obtain the identity of sellers on Amazon, so you may not get to that point without considerable expense. Is it possible to block other sellers on my product pages? The answer is no, and this goes against the whole value of Amazon's marketplace. You can put the above protections in place, but you'll need to supplement that with ongoing monitoring of your product pages and react to any new unauthorized sellers. And the final question in this article is, if I have a MAP policy in place, shouldn't that protect me? And the answer is that Amazon does not care about MAP and they won't do anything to enforce it. In this instance, you'll want to use serialization to determine which, if any, of your distributors are violating MAP. And also remember that from a legal standpoint, MAP is a concept that's only really used in the USA, and outside the USA, such practices are considered price fixing. The bottom line: it can be frustrating and time-consuming to effectively manage your brand on Amazon and stave off opportunistic sellers who affect your brand positioning and key relationships. But the rigor required to properly police your brand on Amazon can also present an opportunity: increased direct revenue. Contact us if you need a consultant to manage your brand properly on Amazon, both to protect your brand from unauthorized sellers, but also to grow this sales channel into a significant revenue stream.
So I think that the article did a really good job of capturing what brand registry looked like back in 2016, and also what brands can do to protect themselves. But there definitely have been some significant changes in this realm since we posted that article. One of them has been the update to the brand registry process itself. And what you were saying earlier in this podcast about how Amazon has been demonstrating kind of greater sympathy to the plight of brands, and they're trying to protect themselves on the marketplace, while actually getting Brand Registry 2.0 includes more significant hurdles than Brand Registry 1.0 did, in the form of needing to have a registered trademark for your brand. Mm-hmm. It does provide, it removes hurdles later in the process when you do need to report a violation. The process is much simpler when a brand thinks that there's a counterfeit seller on their page. Instead of needing to do a test buy and take pictures and submit a case to prove that it was counterfeit, it's a much simpler process to report a violation once you do have Brand Registry 2.0. So they do seem to be, they being Amazon, they do seem to be demonstrating a greater understanding of the need for brands to protect themselves against counterfeiters, not necessarily unauthorized sellers, but against counterfeiters that are selling their products on Amazon.
Yep.
And this sympathy is also, they're wanting to protect customers because they want to ensure that the customer experience is a positive one and that customers can trust what they're buying off of Amazon. So it's not, just out of the kindness of their hearts towards sellers. It's also a protection of customers as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Amazon's always been customer centric, and that's one of their core values as a company, is not to focus on what competitors are doing, just always keep the customer front of mind and give customers what they want before they even know that they want it, essentially. That has customers want to be shopping somewhere where they can get a broad selection of products at a good price and get value and convenience and all those things that Amazon stands for. And if they're going to get good selection and a good experience, then that has to be from brands selling directly and selling on Amazon because they want to. So I think that Amazon's sort of realizing this secondary stakeholder of the brands themselves is really important. And it seems that they're also moving towards, as much as possible, having a direct relationship with brands as opposed to just trying to get lots of distributors and resellers, because that's obviously turned into a bit of a headache for them to handle all these lawsuits and negotiations with brands about having unauthorized sellers and things like that. So I'm not sure how far it will go. Then certainly not going to get rid of the marketplace model where there can be multiple sellers of a brand, but they seem to be giving brands more tools to police their presence themselves.
Yes, absolutely. And they're also giving brands more tools to celebrate their brand and to establish their brand presence even more on Amazon with enhanced brand content and headline search ads and the availability of storefronts and Seller Central. They're building out more and more ways that brands can show who they are and what their product lineup is, what their catalog is, and who they are as a brand to customers. So those benefits of being a brand registered on Amazon continue to grow as well. Those are very fun to see roll out.
Yeah, well, just to do a quick hit on what those benefits are, they are storefronts, which are dedicated pages for a brand that they can build out with rich visual content and put products into categories and even get like a brand name URL to send people to. They get access to enhanced brand content, which you already mentioned, that which is on the product detail page. What are the benefits of being part of the brand registry there for brands?
The inclusion of headline search ads in PPC and Seller Central is a definite benefit. And that's great, especially as related to storefronts, because using headline search ads to drive traffic to your storefront is a great use of PPC. The other one that they're rolling out slowly is, I believe this is just related to registered brands. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, but is the availability of coupons in Seller Central, which was previously only available to vendors. And so it's building out more promotion opportunities for registered brands. So it just, all of those things combined, the selling experience and the opportunity just grows on Amazon when you are a registered brand.
Yeah. And I personally think it's a really great idea to be raising the bar of, having to produce a registered trademark to Amazon to be able to enroll in brand registry. That really raises the bar for everyone, for all the brands on there, because we've all seen those cheap knockoff kind of brands on Amazon, which are, I don't know, like not inspiring a whole lot of let me start this all over again. We've all seen those cheap knockoff brands on Amazon that don't inspire a lot of confidence in purchasing those products. They just look like you may never get the product in the mail.
Yes.
And so getting a registered trademark is a time-consuming legal process, and that would turn a lot of fly-by-night sellers are not going to want to go to the time and effort of doing that. So by creating more barriers to entry on the platform, essentially by only allowing brand registered sellers to access those tools, is a good thing in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think this is an area where they make it more challenging to get that badge of being a registered brand. I think this is an instance where Amazon's added a challenge that results in a great value, and it's well worth going through those steps to get the brand registry.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Anything else to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that covers it. I think the advent of Brand Registry 2.0 was highly anticipated, and it's going to be interesting to watch how the benefits of being included in the brand registry will only grow. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in terms of actual brand protection as well, and how Amazon helps brands deal with the unauthorized and counterfeit sellers on their pages.
Got it. Well, thanks, Julie. I'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks, Carrie.